The Sega Genesis brought some heat. We've got all the Sonic games, Contra Hardcore, Mortal Kombat with blood and guts, and my personal favorite version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters with playable Casey Jones. Sega was counterculture in the 90s. If you liked blood and guts and real-looking guns, you got a Sega Genesis, not some baby Super Nintendo. Papa Miyamoto, please forgive me, I said that in the heat of comedy and I did not mean it. I love the Super Nintendo just as much as every other gamer on this planet. Please have mercy on my soul. Well, Genesis is pretty cool though. If you don't have a way to play Sega Genesis games in the year of our Lord 2022, then what the hell are you doing? Genesises, or Genesi, or Genesises, they're relatively easy to come by and they're really not all that expensive. But they are approaching 30 years old and there are 3 distinct models of them. Finding ones that work, are in good condition, and will last you a while without breaking down are getting harder and harder to find. I also have this whack-ass AV port, so getting these to play on a modern HD TV requires you to spend more money on cables, adapters, upscalers, you gotta deal with all the bit crunching and all the caveats that upscaling your retro consoles comes with. But I've got a solution. This is the Mega Retron HD from Hyperkin. There's another one of Hyperkin's clone consoles, and it does exactly what you think. Plays Sega Genesis games, but it also plays Mega Drive games, the PAL and Japanese version of the Sega Genesis. But before we jump into it, this video is not sponsored by Hyperkin. We purchased these ourselves wholesale for San Store nostalgic video games. The purpose of these videos is to give you an objective overview of these third-party products, since most of them really aren't on a lot of people's radar. If I answer any of your questions, make sure to let me know, and if you have any questions that I didn't answer, absolutely leave a comment below and I will try and answer those in the comments for you. But if you do want to support us, there is a link in the description below to our Redbubble store that's got shirts, stickers, posters, mugs, pet bandanas, shower curtains, woodblock prints. Awesome. So if you like our content and want to show us your support, pick something up from that Redbubble store. In the description, there's also a link to our Discord server. And if you get something from a Redbubble, please post a picture of it in the Discord server because I would love to see it. Now let's jump into this thing. Inside the box, you get the console itself, which is a nice, sleek, Genesis-esque looking box. It's got that little cut corner with the Hyperkin logo like all their consoles have, and it's got the trademark Genesis circle on the top. You've got your on and off switch up here, looks and feels really nice. You've got a reset button right here, and you've got 2 of your 6-pin controller ports. Around on the back, you have a micro USB port for power, which this comes with a 6-foot micro USB cable as well as a USB adapter, which is awesome because more and more nowadays we're seeing companies not bother to throw in the little USB to wall adapters, and it really bugs the hell out of me. You also have an HD output as well as AV ports if you prefer that classic feel. And the last thing on the back here is a 16:9 and 4:3 aspect ratio switch. Nice to have those. I prefer playing in the original 4:3 because stretching those pixels looks horrible, and this thing feels hefty. Hyperkin does a great job at making their consoles and controllers feel premium. You also get the Hyperkin Squire, which is their 6-button Sega Genesis clone, and just like all other Hyperkin controllers, I really do like this one. The buttons feel a little chunkier than some of the other controllers from Hyperkin, but they do break in once you play with them. I have a feeling that probably has something to do with the material they use for the rubber membranes under the actual button caps themselves. But just like with every other third-party controller, the materials used to make this controller are different from the original manufacturer's materials, so they are going to feel a little different. But in my experience, Hyperkin has some of the best quality third-party controllers that work on original and clone systems with slight aesthetic upgrades that still don't destroy the look and feel of the original controller. The Squire also has a 10-foot cable, so you've got plenty of room and you don't have to deal with the dreaded classic console syndrome. Continuing on with differences between this and the Sega Genesis Classic console, this plays your original cartridges. It does not have any games preloaded onto it. Personally, I prefer that. I love collecting games and having the piece of history on my shelf and in my collection. But if you prefer digital games or having everything just already pre-installed on a box, check out a Sega Genesis Classic console. Now on the back of the console here, there's a little switch with 3 options: NTSC-J, NTSC-U, and PAL. Those are Japanese, United States, and European games. So besides outputting an actual 720p HD, the other huge draw of this is that you can play games from other regions. A lot of really expensive games out there are much, much cheaper to buy PAL or Japanese versions of. So if you want to play a game and it happens to be crazy expensive in NTSC-U, you can pick up a Japanese or PAL version, it'll play just fine on this console. But it is important to note that this is just a system-on-a-chip console. There's no SD port or any sort of operating system, so there's no way to upload language patches to Japanese games. If you want to do that, you'll have to check out Retron's higher-end console, the Retron 5, which plays all of the Genesis games that this does, as well as NES, SNES, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, and all of the Japanese and European versions of those cartridges. Prices on retro consoles are shifting all the time, but at Nostalgic, these are really about the same price as a standard Sega Genesis. Now, as with every clone console, the video and audio output of this is not going to be 100% exactly the same as the original. Criminy! There's a ghost.
Did you see that? Over Joey's left shoulder, the Brawler 64 controller drops from its place on the shelf, unprovoked. Was this just vibrations through the wall from the Dairy Queen next to us in the plaza? Or was it something else?
The major difference with this to me. But the differences are negligible, and compared to that of using upscalers and converters, you're going to get very similar results. But if you are an enthusiast, maybe this console isn't for you. If you're willing to put the time and money into getting an original console and having the best setup you can, more power to you. We've got options for you as well at Nostalgic Video Games, so check out some of our other videos. All in all, I really like Hyperkin's clone consoles. Yeah, there are some trade-offs to using original hardware, but for the casual gamer, these are fantastic budget options to get playing on your HD TV. If you want to show your kids the games you grew up playing, or if you're just feeling a little nostalgic. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.